Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to take a look at another of the Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series figures, as David Silva has recently allowed me the opportunity to take a look at the Regaloceratops. He also sent this one, the Spiklipius, which was probably my second most anticipated figure for Wave 2. It was just such a really cool looking paint scheme on the figure, and an unbelievably obscure species of Ceratopsian that I've never seen get a figure, so straight away I was incredibly excited about the fact that the Beast of the Mesozoic series was taking this species and creating a figure of it, because we don't have any that I know of from any company so far. So this was one that was very high up on my want list, and again, he's allowed me the opportunity to take a look at it a little bit early, so we now have the pleasure of looking at this figure as Wave 2 is about to hit. In just a few weeks it'll start shipping. But again, the artwork here on the box is beautiful, as it always is. You can see the Ceratopsian figure right there, and you can also see some incredible artwork right here to the right, sporting the name of the species, as well as the Beast of the Mesozoic logo right there. And then once we turn it around, we have the checklist of Wave 2, which there are a few other figures hiding back here behind this, but the slipcover here is actually taped on, so it doesn't move unless I pull the tape off. And I'm probably going to open it from this side, so I'm not going to move this right now. But again, there are some really cool species included in this wave, and you can also see kind of a sneak peek. There's 3 more hiding over there as far as what is included in Wave 2, and then of course the checklist for you to check them off as you get them. And then we have a preview here of the collector's card that is inside, with of course the species name up here and some information down here. So let's go ahead, break the Spiklipius out of the box and take a look at it. Once we get the box open, of course, we have the tail assembly instructions, which are very important if you are new to these figures. You need to make sure to pay attention to this so that you can apply the tail nicely, safely, and correctly without breaking the figure. And then you also have the collector's card, and as usual, the artwork on the card is just incredible in every way, beautifully done as per usual. And then once we turn the card around, you can see kind of a sneak peek of the figure itself, the Beast of the Mesozoic logo, the species name, as well as some information there about the species down below. Awesome are these cards. I love the inclusion of these collector's cards. Such a cool idea. And then we have our Spiklipius itself, and wow, is that beautiful. Such a really nicely done figure, sculpt wise but also paint wise. Like, that is a really cool looking paint scheme that they've chosen for the figure. I love the blue in the throat area. That is such a cool addition right there, just really making it look flashy but very realistically done overall. And again, it's another one of those figures where you just pull it out and you're instantly almost flabbergasted with how beautiful it is in person. It's just a gorgeous figure all around as far as this one goes, as every single one of these has been consistently. I don't think I'll ever find a Beast of the Mesozoic figure that won't put me in almost a state of awe when I initially open it. Some of my favorite figures in my collection are unquestionably the Beast of the Mesozoic line figures, and this Spiklipius is definitely another figure that I am so psyched to add to my collection, but also psyched to have an opportunity to review for you guys right now. So let's go ahead and get a closer look at it. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see the head sculpt is incredibly highly detailed, but on top of being incredibly highly detailed, I am just totally shocked by the incredible amount of paintwork that is included on the face of the Spiklipius. Like, there are so many different colors and so much going on paint-wise up here. It is just crazy. There's a really cool design. Actually, look at how nice that design is there on the frill. That is incredibly nice. Really flashy and pleasing to the eye, but realistic in my opinion. A nice elaborate design that we see up there. But if you look over here at the side of the face, again, the scale detail is picture perfectly done, and there are so many different varying sizes of scales that you see here on the face, allowing it to have the absolute most realistic look to the skin texture as possible. And you can also see, again, so much paintwork is applied. You can see some nice dry brushing again, which is something that I feel like the Beast of the Mesozoic line has perfected more so than any other company out there, would be the ability to dry brush their figures in a really realistic way to make sure the detail pops in a very lifelike fashion. Of course, we have an articulated jaw, which this one can actually open really wide, like we can keep going, which I don't want to do because I don't want to damage the figure. But the inside of the mouth, you can see, also looks quite nice. It's pretty dark in there right now because it's a fairly small mouth. The figure itself isn't all that large, but you can see a very realistic coloration has been chosen for the inside of the mouth. It also appears to have a gloss coat in there, which looks really nice and very realistic. You can see the tongue back there a little bit, as well as the teeth that are painted within the mouth. Very smoothly articulating jaw as well. If you come up here into the eye area, you can see the eye is painted really nicely with a gorgeous blue that is beautifully glossed, given a nice black pupil. And again, the gloss coat looks very lifelike, very realistic the way that that is applied. It genuinely looks like a real eye and has that really nice genuine eye shine to it. Again, lots of variations of color here on the face. You have a nice black streak that runs down right here. Some variations of reds and stuff, yellows all over the place. Just so much going on. You have this nice off-white and then a beautiful blue that kind of creeps through. Very similar blue to what we see back here. And again, some more yellows and stuff. Different variations of reds. Some more dry brushing has been applied pretty much everywhere. You can see it actually really nicely in the eye socket area. Some gorgeous dry brushing that's been applied right there. And then you have this really cool black kind of a design that runs all throughout the course of the frill of the Spiklipius, and you can see some nice tones of off-whites, some oranges, some very dark reds. All looks really, really cool. Almost gives it a sunset type of an appearance, and it just looks so insanely flashy, but so gorgeous on the figure overall. The horns of the figure are also really nicely painted, and you can see that they have been beautifully dry brushed as well. You can actually see that really nicely here in the beak area of the dinosaur as well, but you can see that the horns all end with like a really cool blue tip, which is a very neat idea and honestly looks so subtle with the way that they've applied it that it just gives it a really impressive but also a gorgeous appearance to the figure with that kind of like blue tips to all the horns. And you can see that continues to run up here onto the frill. Very similar paintwork. You can see the detailing is off the charts, insanely nice. Very nicely dry brushed as far as the detailing goes, and lots of cracks and crevices, but they always end in that really cool blue tip, which is just a really, really cool idea, and they've utilized that perfectly as always. Once we move back into the throat here and the neck region of the dinosaur, you can see a nice dark black, but then you can also see that really cool blue, and then it transitions to a white here on the underside, which as well has kind of like that brown hiding within. It's kind of like a wash, or maybe just as well, again, dry brushed over top, but it allows that kind of brown to creep through each and every one of the scales, again making the scale detail pop really nicely. But again, I really love that blue right there in the neck area. That is such a really cool look right there. Love that part of this figure. As you look here at the back of the frill, you can see some nice variation as there's some really dark browns back here, as well as kind of like a light yellowish brown the closer you get to the neck region here on the frill of the dinosaur. Very nicely painted, beautifully sculpted. As you look here at the top, you can see some like osteoderms that run down the course of the spinal column of the dinosaur, as well as some red spots that show up on each side of the spinal column of the dinosaur, which looks really quite nice. And throughout the black areas, you can also see kind of like some hints of browns and stuff that show up, which look really, really cool. So it allows for, again, some alternate color variation included within the figure. And they've also, again, as usual, dry brushed those areas so that they pop very, very nicely. As you move down into the body, you can see kind of like a orangish coloration pick up, and then down into a yellow, and then in a really smooth transition down into that kind of an off-white here on the underside. And it's all really nicely applied, very realistically applied. You can see the leg sculpt here in the front sports some very nice muscle tone to it. Very similar, actually, with some of the tones of color on this one used. Very similar to the Regaloceratops, and I think that's another one of the reasons why I'm such a huge fan of the paint scheme on here. But as we move down here into the front foot, you can see that foot sculpt looks great. Really, really nicely painted nails. Again, given that picture perfect gloss coat, so they look just like they really would probably look on a real living Spiklipius here in person. You can see a little bit of skin folding going on down here in the lower part of the stomach region. You can see the hip bone up here as well. And then again, some more of those kind of ridges or osteoderms that run down the spinal column area. And you can also see some more showing up here and there throughout the figure. The muscle tone is really beautifully sculpted into the figure here as we move down that rear leg. Again, nice transitions between colors as per usual. The rear foot also looks really nicely done. And again, the nail paint is perfectly applied. Like, there is just no sloppiness to the paintwork here on these figures continuously. And that has pretty much been the story of every Beast of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series, or even Raptor series, actually, figure that I've ever had. They've just always been so picture perfectly painted, really showing that David Silva cares a lot about the final product and what we as fans receive from him. But as you move out the length of the tail, you can see that tail is quite nicely sculpted. Very nice paintwork. You have a kind of a black striping that runs down the course of the upper part of the tail and ends in a black tip here on the tail, as well as some more of those osteoderms that run down the course of the tail. Here on the underside, you can see again, really nicely sculpted, beautiful scale detail here on the underside of the Spiklipius. You can also see like some muscle tone and everything here to the chest and everything as we move up the course of the dinosaur. The throat is nicely present right there. And man, this thing is just incredibly well done. Of course, you're not going to see much difference on this side compared to what we had just seen on the previous side, because the figure is an articulated figure. It kind of comes in a neutral position, and it's then up to you to decide how you want to pose it. So you're not really going to see much difference, but looking at the figure over here, you can again see that detail-wise, it is off the charts, gorgeous in every way. Paint-wise, it is exactly the same. It is just off the charts, gorgeous in every way. You can see a few blue spots showing up here on the hip area of the dinosaur as well. But man, these figures are so impressive. Every single time I get one of these Beasts of the Mesozoic figures, I am just blown away by their beauty, and this Spiklipius is another perfect example of just how good these figures can be and just how blown away I can get by them. As far as articulation goes, of course, that is one of the primary features of these Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series. Of course, we have the articulation in the jaw, which we have already mentioned. You also have articulation here in the neck in two different spots, which allows you to move your figure around and create some really nice poses for the figure overall. You can even swivel the head completely if you would like. You can look up, down, left, right, anywhere you would like, and it articulates really smoothly. Of course, I haven't moved any of these joints around, so they're a little stiff right now. It might take a little, convincing for them to work a little smoother, but once you actually start moving it, it really kind of works its way through and starts to move a little smoother. And you can see right here, again, articulation. You also have articulation in the elbow and the wrist. And like I had said in my Regaloceratops review, these joints haven't really been moved around, so I'm not going to force them because some of them are a little bit stiff currently as far as the joints go, and the wise idea to kind of loosen those up would be to, use a little warm water to kind of soften the joints, or even a hair dryer to kind of soften the joints before trying to force them, because if you just force them, you're probably going to break the figure, and you don't want to do that. So I would advise doing that to kind of loosen the joints up, and then they should move a little smoother for you from there. Like this leg's working pretty good back here in the knee. You can also see, again, articulation in the hip, the knee, and then as we move down here, we have two areas near the ankle that articulate and even swivel and everything. And then you also have articulation here in the midsection, so you can allow, again, for some really cool poses and dioramas to be created with your figure. And then articulation in the tail out here. As always, it can swivel, pretty much move any way you would like. So the articulation is picture perfect and awesome as always. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at about the 10 3/4 inch range, or about the 27 centimeter area for a length. And then for a height, you're looking at just under about 4.5 inches, or right around the 11 centimeter range. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Back Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Creative Beast Studio, Beast of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series Spiklipius. And you can see next to these guys right here that the figure, even though it's smaller than the more recent Regaloceratops I looked at, still sports a very impressive size overall. And you can definitely see that next to these guys here, especially next to Mr. Papo Rex, who is a pretty large figure himself. But as usual, even the smaller figures from the Ceratopsian series still sport a very impressive size. And then for a second size comparison, here is the Regaloceratops I recently looked at in comparison to the Spiclipius. And you can see that the Regaloceratops just sports an overall larger size in body mass, but they're not too far off in size overall. They're fairly similar, but just the Regaloceratops, again, body mass-wise, I would say, is a little bit bigger. So this Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series Spiklipius figure is incredible in every way possible. Sculpt, incredible. Paint, incredible. The fact that it's a Spiklipius is incredible. Again, that is a species of Ceratopsian I've never seen get a figure before from any company, so the fact that it's now introduced into my collection thanks to Creative Beast Studio and the Beast of the Mesozoic line is awesome, and I could not have chosen a better company to introduce this figure to my collection, because now after they have introduced it to my collection, I honestly don't know that I would need to buy another one from any company because it's that good overall. And on top of being an incredibly obscure species that I've never had before, they have sculpted it so perfectly. As always, David Silva just nails every aspect of every figure sculpt-wise that he creates, like as probably ever created. They're just always insanely well done, and with these figures, again, being articulated, you don't see as much going on as you normally would with like one of his resin kits when it comes to like skin folds and skin stretching and stuff like that, because it's an articulated figure. You don't expect things like that with a figure that's going to come in a neutral position, and then it is up to you to display and, you know, articulate however you would like. So again, for this type of figure, this is as highly detailed as this figure could possibly get, and it is, again, far and away better than what I expected, which I always have high hopes now and high expectations for a Beast of the Mesozoic figure. After taking a look at every one of Wave 1 of the Ceratopsians, I know when I'm getting one of these figures, I'm getting a gorgeous figure. So the fact that they can still impress me as much as they do every single time really says a lot about the Beast of the Mesozoic line, and again, David Silva himself, and the unbelievable work that is put into these figures. Also, paint-wise, this has an incredibly flashy paint scheme, but in my opinion, another really nice and natural-looking paint scheme, something I could see on a species like this in real life. I definitely feel like they've done a great job as far as that goes, with some nice dark tones on the body, but then it kind of lightens as you get lower into the stomach region and then to the underside. And then the flashiness in the face is, again, something that I would expect to see on a Ceratopsian, especially in the frill area. Like, you would really expect to see some flashy colors up there. And again, this could 100% be the coloration of this species in real life. We really have no idea, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it if it actually happened to walk down my street and this is what it looked like. I would not be shocked. But again, they've chosen a gorgeous paint scheme for it, a gorgeous paint application, because all of the paint is applied in beautiful fashion, very naturally, very realistically in every area. Nothing on this figure that, in my opinion, looks like paint on a figure. It all genuinely looks like body color. So that is always a gigantic plus when it comes to these Beasts of the Mesozoic figures. And then, of course, the articulation is always the icing on the cake when it comes to these figures. It's always like the coolest thing about them is the fact that you can now have articulated Ceratopsians. Previously was articulated raptors. Soon it will be articulated tyrannosaurs. So again, David Silva is pretty much creating the ultimate as far as what us as fans look for, and giving us, on top of a gorgeous sculpt, a gorgeous paint job, incredible articulation in each and every single one of these figures. So if you would like to pick this up, I will include a link in the description to the current backer kit going on for the Beast of the Mesozoic Wave 2 Ceratopsians and Wave 3 Ceratopsians, as they are still on there. You can pre-order this currently. However, these are currently on their way to the Creative Beast Studio warehouse, so they should be shipping soon, and I do believe once they officially come into stock, they will kind of transfer over to the website, the Creative Beast Studio website. So if you check the backer kit, you know, again, depending on when you watch this review, if you check the backer kit, they're not there anymore. Check the other link that I'll have down there to the website, as they will then be moved over to there. But either way, make sure you pick this figure up. You will in no way, shape, or form be disappointed with this or any of the other Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian figures. And again, one last huge shout out to David Silva for allowing me an early access look at this beautiful figure. So make sure you guys pick this up, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.